Welcome to Spiritual Dialogue with Father Udon de Castro. We are here at Cariana Leibonase Community. I'm your host, Brother Lodi, and with us is Sister Tachi.
Yes, Father, I was just thinking about the confusion that's going on. There seems to be no letdown. It seems to be going on and on. Is this part of prophecy, Father?
The reason why the confusion keeps on going on is because nobody's resolving it. Nobody's solving the confusion. That's why in our program we made it a primary goal that we try to explain the confusion, disentangle it, because only when we have disentangled it can we find a solution to it. And a very good example of this continuous confusion is the case of the bishop from the United States, in which case the solution they are offering to solve the problem are all confused and they're all wrong. And so they cannot solve the problem. They can more or less pinpoint the problem, but they cannot find really the problem because of the confusion. That's why they cannot solve it. And the funny thing is, this has been a problem in the Catholic Church since before. It's not a new problem. In the time of Peter Damian, who was a Benedictine monk, this problem is all over the church. Practically the whole Catholic Church, the priests and all the bishops, majority of them were just like this bishop in the United States that has a problem. Practically all of them.
It's like a repetition of the past.
It's just a repetition of the past. And the point is, in the past, we have solved it already, partially at least. At least we knew the solution. They knew what was the problem. So why don't they go back to the past and see how we solved it before in the Catholic Church? And so what we're doing is we're trying to review again what's happening today. We're trying to show where the confusion is. Let us disentangle the confusion. And when everything is quite clear, we can propose the Catholic solution. What we're interested is on the Catholic solution. We are not after a psychological or sociological or a political solution. We are interested in the Catholic solution because that's the only way to solve the problem, because it's spiritual. It's a spiritual problem. The problem is spiritual, so the solution should be spiritual. That's why our program is called Spiritual Vignettes or
Okay,
Spiritual
Dialogue.
Dialogue.
Father, for the sake of the new viewers, could you explain briefly the confusion that happened so that we will understand and we will be properly guided when you explain something, Father?
Yeah. Our defect is that the situation today has been described already by Christ, meaning to say Christ has been warning us of what will happen to us in the present and in the future because it has happened in the past. As Saint Bonaventure would say, it has happened before already on the sixth day, which is a representation of Good Friday.
Yes.
The
Father.
problem we have today has happened before on Good Friday. And it's just repeating itself. That's a prophecy, meaning to say. So since we knew very well how it happened before, all we have to do is review what happened before so we can impose the solution before this day, today, exactly. And the confusion is the fact that most Catholics do not know their catechism. In other words, Christ had already warned us this day will be characterized by the abounding in sin. And so the latest scandal is we are seeing that it's the bishops and the priests who are sinful. We're not talking about laymen. We're talking about bishops who are
Yes.
sinful and cardinals who are sinful. How can sinful cardinals lead their flock, a diocese, or a parish? They cannot. Because if they are sinful in the state of sin, they would not know the right path that leads towards eternal life.
You mentioned about this Catechism Compendium of Pope Benedict. Seemingly, it's very simple. How come they do not concentrate on teaching the basic theology of Catholic faith through Compendium of Catechism?
Yeah, we have discussed this before as one of the sources of the confusion in the Catholic Church. And many authors had been writing about this too. The defect is in the training of the seminarians. They are so poorly trained, they cannot overcome even the smallest sin. They easily commit sin. And the moment they commit sin, they cannot learn anymore the truths of the Catholic Church, because to know the spiritual truths of the Catholic Church, which is in the supernatural level, you have to be in the state of grace.
People might ask, what's wrong with the way we teach the seminarian in the seminary? They might ask
Yeah.
that question, Father.
So again, we go back to the teachings of Christ. In the last chapter of St. Matthew, Christ precisely taught the apostles how seminarians are supposed to be taught. It's very clear. It's called the Apostolic Commission. Well, they are not teaching their seminarians in the way Christ had instructed in the last chapter of St. Matthew. That's the defect. So they're not following the teaching of Christ.
I see.
And that's a source of confusion. So what we're saying is because they are not following the teachings of Christ, they're confused. So what I'm saying now is let's return back to the teachings of Christ.
Definitely, Father. Yes, sister?
No, it's just, yeah, go on, Father.
So what we're noticing now is the confusion in the sense that most of the bishops, most of the priests do not know what's going on. That's why they're confused.
Yes, definitely, Father.
You should surely be confused. If you're driving and you have a big smoke screen going in front of you, you'll get confused. Your bearings will be lost. No? So, and an example of this is precisely the statement made by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, reacting to the problem that arose in the United States with this cardinal bishop. The reaction shows that they were ignorant, completely ignorant of what was going in the States. Now the point is, these are bishops.
Yes, Father.
They should know what's happening with the other bishops, especially such a nation like the United States. How come they do not know what's going on? In fact, they were saying that they're going to study further what is going on. Now, why should they study it any further when everything is in the news?
That's what I was going to ask you, Father. I think it's been all over the papers for
It's
weeks
all over. It's all over.
and a long, long time.
And not only that, everybody's involved. Even the civil authority is already involved, which should not be the case.
And our bishops do not know what's happening.
And still don't know what to do. And they do not know what's the problem, and they do not know how to resolve it.
Yeah, they cannot resolve it unless they know
The
they
problem.
know the problem.
Of course, yeah.
Question is, how come they do not know the problem?
Well, if we go back to basic, this problem has been described by Pope Benedict already long time ago in the 1980s yet, when he was still Cardinal Ratzinger. He said that the problem really in the crisis of the church is because of the training of the priests. Training of the priests, that's really the problem. If the priests were trained well, these things would not happen at all. But the priest has been poorly trained these days, and we have discussed this. We discussed the fact that Pope John Paul II, who has been canonized, spoke to our Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines in Regio Veritas, Where is Reggie Veritas? In
That was in Quezon City, I think.
yeah, in Quezon City. Yeah. Where he told them that the training of the priests of the seminaries was wrong badly, and so they have to introduce a new curriculum, which they were able to devise a new curriculum but was never implemented. So up to now, the training of our seminaries in the Philippines is wrong. But like St. John Chrysostom says, when there is something wrong with the training of the seminaries in the Philippines, you can almost be sure there is something wrong in the training of all the seminarians all over the world.
So, Father, if there is something wrong, there's ignorance or errors, that moves on. You now finish as a seminary, you're now a priest, and you're a bishop.
Yeah.
Up to the cardinal, you mean all this time they're carrying the wrong
Yeah.
that they have learned?
Not really like that. It's
How
even
does
worse.
it go? Oh,
It's even
worse?
yeah.
Okay, Father, how does it
The
go?
principle of St. Thomas of Aquinas is if you have learned something wrong, which is what's happening right now,
Yes.
you're learning something wrong. If you don't correct it, it becomes worse.
Definitely,
So
Father.
the wrong is there, but it's even a worse wrong.
It becomes worse. Yes. It never remains stagnant wrong.
It is. I
It
see.
becomes
Okay.
wrong.
Okay. It becomes worse and worse. Okay.
So what happened in the United States with the cardinal bishop was something that could have been avoided or prevented. I mean, sins of those kinds of sins are very common in the seminary, very common. But it doesn't have to get worse. The point is it got worse. And then the Pope himself solved it in a wrong way.
This
so everything get worse.
This
Yeah,
Pope
Francis.
Francis. Okay.
Because Pope Benedict corrected it in the right way.
So that you say that's enough to cause a confusion, right, Father?
Yeah.
Okay. Now. So
And so the confusion continues. And one of the confusion again now is the fact that, for instance, the Catholic Church in China was there was an agreement performed between the Vatican and China that the Catholic Church in China before was called the underground is now going to be subject to the Chinese government,
which is communist.
which is communist, of course. Huh? Today's communist. Now, many people have been talking about Our Lady Fatima, and we have been praying for what Our Lady told us to pray for the conversion of Russia.
Yes.
And people are still continuing praying for the conversion of Russia, which means people are confused because they do not know
Russia's not
that Russia has already been converted long time ago.
not communist anymore.
That Russia is not perfect yet, it's not perfect, but Russia is subject to the Orthodox Church, which is a very Christian church.
Yes, Father.
It is a schismatic church, but it's more Catholic than the Vatican. Now, if you're going to pray for somebody's conversion, it should not be Russia, who is now subject to the Orthodox Church. It should be the conversion of the Vatican,
Yes.
because the confusion is greater in the Vatican than in Russia.
Okay.
But how are we going to do that, Father? They're the ones setting up the laws or the teaching.
Well, the way to do it is like you, Brother Lodi, Sister Tachi. You follow the truth. You too should believe that Russia has been converted,
Yes.
should thank God for it in prayer, and that the Vatican needs a greater conversion than Russia.
Excuse me, Father, we have only a minute to go.
And so the confusion is the fact that the Vatican is more communist now than Russia. Russia is more Christian than the Vatican.
And about Rome is for what? No.
That's the one.
Well, that's the fact that Rome now under Pope Francis is very left-leaning, like America. America used to be democracy, but really democracy is not different really than from communism. Communism and democracy comes from the French Revolution, so it's the same. The one spreading communism now is America, China, not Russia.
Some people might not understand your statement, and probably next episode, please continue watching so that Father will be explaining what he said now. Thank you very much for watching Spiritual Dialogues with Father Odon de Castro. See you again, please.
Hosanna, Hosanna, in excelsis, Hosanna.